craziest game. What's up is down and what's left is right. Is through the looking glass we go. And that is where I've been for, 14 years now. If I'm a little burned out, you'll understand why. Now, ugh, crispy critters. It's a terrible medical term for third-degree burns. But we are wild. The ER docs are just wild, wild, wild. What can I tell you? You have to be to do it. The fact is, a lot of the people who you would think should know don't, and it's because they're protecting them. Now you're saying, what? What? What do you mean? You don't think they've whacked people knowing 1% of what I know? They have. And I'll tell you why. I'm a nobody, so it's okay that I know. Say I'm of no consequence. I'm really nobody. So if you're nobody, you can do these things. But if you're the President of the United States, like Jack Kennedy or Eisenhower, and you find out about this and you don't stick to the party line, there are consequences. Take my word for it, and I'm not a big conspiracy buff, but I can prove some of this. Now, the problem is, what happens through this level of intimidation? It erodes the constitutional chain of command. And the Disclosure Project, what we're trying to do, is not only bring this to the huge numbers of people in the public, because our website's had, nearly 10 million people on it, but also to try to bring it out to our leadership. There's this myth that they think, well, you're on the Senate Intelligence Committee, you're your president, you're in the chain of command, and you're elected or you're appointed and what have you, and therefore, a priori, you're going to know. Because for them not to know would, of course, not only not redound to the success of democracy, it would erode operational chain of command control of critical issues. And it does. There have been some terrible things happen because certain people didn't know what was going on. It's very dangerous. But in truth, because they want to keep this secret until the appointed time when they deem it proper to pull it out, which will probably be about the time both polar caps melt and we flip upside down, or some such foolishness. Believe me, that time is closer than you might think. And the fact is, we have some folks who just cannot let this out because it would completely upset the apple cart of the geopolitical power structure. And believe me, we still live on a plantation, and there are a handful of masters and a bunch of slaves. Or as Tom Bearden said, they be the wolf and you be the rabbit. Love him. Now, changing that is a Promethean task. It hasn't been easy, and it still isn't easy. I was talking to Paula Harris earlier. I said, we need to write something called The Struggle. It's been mind-blowing. It's been interesting. The only reason I'm still in this effort at all is that I'm certain of what the truth is, and I'm certain of the implications of it being tremendous. We have the ability to transform this planet from the current state of massive poverty, environmental decay, non-sustainability into a rose garden. We can do it. We can do it in our lifetime. We're going to have to pull together to do it. And we're going to have to say no, quite frankly, to those people. I don't know if these guys just weren't breastfed long enough or what, but who just cannot, they're so greedy and they're so absolutely addicted to this level of power that it becomes almost a cult of power when you get into how these guys think and how they view this stuff. Now, the cogs in that big machine, and there are a lot of cogs, lower level folks, don't really know what's going on, and so they just go along with the game. There are a lot of mid-level apparatchiks, sort of functionaries. But the truth is, we have the ability in our time right now to change that status quo, but it's going to take all of us doing a lot more than we've been doing. We're going to really have to put our shoulder to the wheel and pull together and do it. Now, my view of this is, over the years, have evolved. After I met with Lord Hill Norton in Great Britain, who, can you hold this for a minute? Are you hot? Maybe I'm having a hot flash. Male menopause. But cooking up here. So, I'm glad I didn't wear a tie. I'm going to take this off. We'll have a strip show here soon. That's my night job. But I am a bodybuilder, bench 380, arm curl 160. It's fun. That way people sometimes will leave you alone. Not always. Doesn't always work. What was I talking about? Before I had my hot flash? Lord Hill Norton is a wonderful man who knows this stuff is real now, but when he was head of the Ministry of Defense, he didn't know anything. And of course, MOD head in England, as you know, is this also like DCI. They're also head of all the intelligence directors, MI5, MI6, MI99, whatever it is. But the problem is that just like here, if you are in those positions, you may or may not know what's going on. He didn't. And I was at his cottage. They call them cottages. This beautiful old house, this antiquity with a thatched roof, you know, in Hampshire, you know, in England. They're just beautiful. And I was there, and he was in an armchair, and I was in an armchair, and he said, well, why the hell wouldn't they have told me? He was mad. I mean, he was like 5'3", and he's steely blue eyes, and he's a 5-star admiral and a sea lord. And I said, well, sir, I'll answer your question with a question. He looked at me. I said, what would you do if you found out there was a shadowy group that had established an extra constitution and illegal operation that was keeping from the public the means for us to evolve into a sustainable civilization, and that would literally save millions of lives worldwide, if not billions eventually, by it being applied for peaceful purposes? And in order to maintain their death grip on this, had actually engaged in high crimes and misdemeanors, murder, and a complete insubordination of the chain of command in every powerful industrialized country. He said, I wouldn't have stood for it for one bloody minute. I said, that's why they never told you. They know that. They do a psychological, even psychic sort of biopsy, and they will know whether you will go along with the secrecy. If you will, they'll give you little bits of it and bring you along and bring you along and bring you along. And if they think you won't, they're not going to tell you, because if they do, they know they're going to have to do something to silence you. So it protects good people from knowing, who are in high positions. Think about it. It's self-protective to everyone, except the planet and us. So psychologically, you know, this is a very complex issue, but institutionally, it's even more complex, because people will think that, well, it's got to be this agency. It's the agency that has this. And there's no the agency. You know, it's like a guy I was talking to about a senator who was on the Senate Intelligence Committee, kvetching about the fact that he had seen some stuff to make him think this stuff was really going on, but he had no information, and we made an inquiry. He was blown off. It was a sitting Senate Intelligence Committee member that I met with. And I mentioned this to a guy that I know who's a corporate guy who had been with Lockheed. And he says, oh, well, the tank those guys go into is the wrong tank. He'd have been better off on the 7th floor of the Xerox building over here in the suburbs of D.C. Anyway, so the fact of the matter is, this thing is wrapped up in a very unusual way, and it's how you keep it secret. Now, the myth in the media is that, well, they can't keep a secret. They couldn't even keep Bill Clinton's affair secret. Well, the fact is that it's all relative. You know about it. I know about it. There are millions of people who do. One of the biggest things that people want to see on the Internet and in the media are issues related to this subject. I mean, I was on Larry King Live years ago when they did a show on this. His producer said it was the highest ratings they had ever had, ever. So you can't tell me, even from a money whore point of view of the media, they're all shills for either money or something, that there's not interest in this. There is if it's done well, and you keep it out of the silly season of, you know, whatever. I think that the problem is that we have lost all of our major institutions on this subject, which includes the national security, infiltration, and corruption in the corporate world for the media, where the media has become the chief roadblock to the secrecy. It has. And I was meeting with a congressman last month, in February. What is this? It's April. And I was flying back with him from someplace, and we were sitting for a couple hours talking. And this congressman is on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. And he knows that I'm trying to identify new energy systems that are based on zero-point energy and electrogravitic and so-called anti-gravity systems to bring out to the public